Welcome to the Power in Motion podcast, the show for women who want to develop a kinder relationship with their body so you can feel healthy, happy, and confident without restricting food, doing torturous exercise, or constantly worrying about the number on the scale. I'm your host, Kim Hagel, size-inclusive fitness specialist and certified non-diet health and life coach specializing in body image. This podcast is here to provide weight-neutral, health at every size aligned information and coaching on sustainable habits and mindset shifts so you can feel your very best in the body you have right now. Let's lace up our runners and go for a walk while we chat. Well, hey there, friend, and welcome to the Joyful Movement Show. If you're new here, I'm Kim Hagel, personal trainer, registered holistic nutritionist, and I help women who feel unmotivated discover joyful movement, peace with food, and body acceptance through mindset work and intuitive movement and eating. This is episode 38, and today we're talking all about perfectionism and what a thief of joy it is. Our guest on the show today is a recovering perfectionist. She's a nutritionist, and like myself and so many others in the industry, always felt the pressure to be a role model for health, which meant eating impeccably, exercising regularly, and maintaining a, quote, ideal weight. Like so many of us in the industry, we feel this need to live a life of perfection in order to inspire our clients. In our interview, Ardelle will share how a traumatic accident forced her out of perfectionism and into self-compassion, and how this transformed her relationship with herself and her whole career. Ardelle Viau is an intuitive eating coach and certified holistic nutritional consultant dedicated to guiding ambitious women through the process of breaking free from perfectionism and dieting so they can intuitively embrace healthy and abundant lives. After spending years obsessing over her body size and health, doing fad diet after fad diet, then health protocol after health protocol, she never felt like what she was doing was enough. It wasn't until she studied intuitive eating and combined it with her holistic nutrition education that she was able to fully accept her body. Intuitive eating has allowed her to embrace wellness without obsession. It has allowed her to love, nourish, express, and empower herself. And now she's here to help you do the same. With over a decade of experience coaching clients, she's on a mission to dismantle diet culture and redefine wellness. I hope you enjoy this vulnerable interview with Ardelle. All of her resources are linked up in the show notes, so let's jump right in. Well, hello, Ardelle. Welcome to the Joyful Movement Show. I'm so happy you're here with us today.
Hi, Kim. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I am really looking forward to this conversation. We've been chatting back and forth a little bit prior to recording, and I know what we're going to get into is going to be some juicy stuff about your whole journey towards joyful movement. So I can't wait to get into that. But before we do that, can you just give us a real quick overview about who you are and what you do?
Awesome. Yes. Okay. I'm so excited to chat about my journey. So my name is Ardelle, and my business is called Aromas and Avocados, where I guide women from breaking free from perfectionism and dieting so they can intuitively embrace healthy and abundant lives. I've had quite the history. I've been coaching on holistic nutrition and now intuitive eating for over a decade. And I actually started in the weight loss industry, and then I gravitated to specifically holistic nutrition. And now I operate mostly within the intuitive eating framework. And it's all one-to-one program. I have a signature one-to-one service where I guide my clients through the intuitive eating process. And our self-coaching framework to really help people make the true transformation. So that's where I spend most of my time. And I always feel like I kind of have to explain where the aromas part of my name came from. I'm obsessed with avocados, so that's where the avocado section came from, and it also represents the nutrition side of things. But aromas, I am a huge advocate for using natural tools in your healing journey if they fit for you, and so I love using essential oils in my practice to help my clients with the mindset work and help with their nervous system. So that's where the aromas part came from.
Oh, that's really cool. I love that whole holistic approach that you're taking. So I'm curious, you said you started your business in the weight loss
Yeah.
industry, as did I. And I've talked on here a few times about my whole journey coming away from that and becoming a non diet coach. So, what was your experience shifting away from weight loss into the non diet world?
Yeah. Okay. So I worked for a weight loss center for quite a few years, and I started that journey thinking that it was to help people, and my intentions were honestly to help people. But what I realize now, it was because of my own um, insecurities around weight and body image. And it was actually my relationship to perfectionism that made me seek out weight loss and then consult on weight loss. I felt like it was like the perfect scenario to keep me the most accountable if I was coaching.
Mm,
And after working with clients for quite a few years, I realized that time and time again my clients would come to me with, they would seek out weight loss. Many of them would attain it, but then they would only feel happiness for a very short period of time,
mhm,
and oftentimes they would gain their weight back. And so, I started to look into this further, and I was like, it can't just be about weight. There has to be more pieces to it.
mhm,
And that's when I went to school for holistic nutrition. So I am certified in holistic nutrition. But what I realize now is that what I did is I simply replaced my obsession around weight with obsession around health.
mhm,
And I started consulting. I didn't work on weight loss. Like my clients would often come to me for the goal of weight loss, but we would work on it from a very different perspective. We would work on it for like the surface level of like, what habits are you doing? Like really, encouraging them to eat whole food. And again, it wasn't until I started my intuitive eating process that I realized it was the consulting and the coaching that I was doing was still somewhat fueling the message that there's good food and bad food.
mhm.
And I wasn't able to get into as much of a deep conversation around weight and what that means for my clients. And it wasn't until I really healed my own journey with my body image, with weight, and with health, and embrace intuitive eating that I was able to really dive into that with my clients.
Yeah. What do you think is behind that recent shift from focusing on weight to focusing on health? And what did you notice in yourself and in your clients? Like it sounds to me as if you still weren't attaining that level of satisfaction that you were looking for, that contentment, that peace in your body. What do you
Yeah.
think that was all about?
Well, I think deep down, a lot of what I was personally going through, and a lot of what my clients were going through when they were replacing their health obsession with weight, is that it was still an underlying um, desire to look a certain way
Mhm,
and to seek out external validation for what they were doing, if whether it was right or not.
mhm,
And so it's very profitable and it's very comfortable to seek out the advice from another individual other than yourself to say, hey, I don't feel well. Tell me what to do.
mhm,
And that's where um, it wasn't until, like I said, that I went through my healing journey that I realized that that wasn't creating true transformation for my clients. It wasn't allowing them to become the expert. And so I think when it comes to replacing weight with health obsession, we are trying to do it in our best interest.
mhm,
But as most of us have been able to see, we went through this transition where talking about diets and fad diets wasn't popular anymore. It wasn't trendy anymore. And so then it became the world of healthy lifestyle. And I'm doing it for my health, right?
mhm.
But it was still so much of the conversations I was having with my clients, they were excited of the changes that we're making, but they were also attaching it to, and I'm losing weight.
Yeah.
Right. And so they never really were able to, and I think for myself too, wasn't able to get over the fact that weight really has nothing to do with it.
Mhm.
It took me a long time to get to that realization.
Yeah. Yeah. Or what I've noticed in some of my clients in the past too was like they would be experiencing all these health benefits, but not really acknowledging them because they weren't resulting in weight loss. So
Yeah.
therefore it couldn't be real, right? They couldn't we still had this definition that health equals a certain weight. And if I'm not achieving that, then all these things that I'm doing are for nothing.
Mhm.
So you spoke of your own healing journey. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Like something happened in your life that caused everything that you knew about health and weight to get flipped on its head.
Yeah.
Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Totally. Okay. So, yeah, when I look at my relationship to my body image, to my body, to food, it was obviously my healing was by choice, but the circumstance of how it happened was very sudden. And I was almost, I don't want to say I was forced into it, but I did get to a point where my circumstances, like I needed to make some changes. So in 2015, I was in a motorbike accident that resulted in a broken pelvis, slip discs in my back, a tear in my right hip, and a multitude of many other issues. And later on, also realizing when I started working with my therapist, I was diagnosed with depression, PTSD, and anxiety.
Mm,
So there was the physical, but also very much the emotional and mental aftermath. So when I look back at that, my healing journey was definitely accelerated through that experience. I everything that I was doing prior to it was no longer working
mhm,
in helping my body heal. And so I was, down. I was kind of, it wasn't like a very conscious decision where I woke up one day and I was like, okay, I'm going to change everything. It was very progressive of working with numerous different modalities and different practitioners that helped me on this journey. But yeah, I kind of, at the time, I don't think I saw the silver lining. But when I look back at it now, that entire experience, it was years of rehabilitation where I was, there was so many silver linings that I see now, like hidden messages. And I do believe things happen for a reason. And while that was like a very big change in my life, and it was met with a lot of resistance, a lot of struggle, like a lot. I also got to a point where I was at my complete lowest,
mm,
and I really needed to make changes in the way that I was working with my body. At that time, I was working against my body,
yeah.
and yeah, it was a huge shift in my life.
Yeah, and like you say, I'm sure it didn't happen overnight. It definitely would have been a journey that took some time. Um, so let's go back before the accident. You talked about your eating behavior, that you were very health obsessed and perfectionistic in your eating behavior. Tell us a little bit about what movement looked like for you prior to the accident. Were you an active person?
Yeah, I was active, not athletic. I was yeah, very active. And I was that typical person that would treat exercise as like I subscribe to the no pain, no gain
Mhm.
concept. And again, I was always like, no, you have to be active. But deep down, it was, if I'm going to work out, then I need to feel exhausted after. I need to, have the sweat happen, and I need to see the physical results of that workout.
Mm,
And I wasn't a super active child. Like I wasn't in a lot of sports or anything like that. I was active to like walking and whatever, playing on my bike, things like that. But in my teenage years, that's when I really started to engage with fad diets and yo-yo cycling with my weight.
Mhm.
And it's also when I started to engage with exercise from this militant perspective. And again, I think that was all to do with the fact that for me, perfectionism was the way that I actually managed my underlying emotion of anxiety and feeling unsafe. And that was obviously like from my childhood, but that's where I was able to like control everything in my
Mhm.
life was
Mhm.
through this lens of perfection. And that's how I treated almost everything in my life, especially like food and exercise.
Mhm. So then experiencing this accident, this trauma, which would not allow for perfection, right? When you not in any way, shape, or form, when you're, physically hurt, emotionally, mentally, like dealing with the effects of this trauma. How how was that? Like not being able to be a perfectionist?
Oh my gosh, Kim, it was so hard because um like it was I was on crutches for a very long time. Like I had to have surgery, and the surgery that I had was somewhat similar to like a C-section. And so because I was off my foot, like I couldn't walk for a few months, when I was finally able to again, I had this mindset that it's like, okay, it's go time. Let's get back into my routine. And I was seeing so many different specialists and a lot of different physiotherapists who were all telling me slow down, just be
Mhm.
compassionate. Like, and it wasn't until I started working with a kinesiologist and a therapist that I really started to understand how important compassion was. But prior to that, I was so angry with everything. I was so angry with my body because in my head, I had a timeline of when I should be back to normal and back at it. And I wasn't meeting that timeline. And so I started to really resent my body
Mm.
and push myself too far, which would just end up with putting me so many far like steps back. Right.
Mhm.
And yeah, so it wasn't until I started to work with a therapist and this kinesiologist who were probably all saying the exact same thing everyone else had said, but it was just the way they said it, it landed with me differently. And that was when things really started to shift that I had no choice. I had to engage with my health from a very different mindset.
Mhm. So how did you begin to make that shift? Like what did the early stages of self-compassion and meeting your body where it was at, how did that look?
Well, for one, prior to the exercise, the form of movement that I was most engaged in was it was if I joined any type of program, I would do it every single day, and like I'd beat myself up if I missed a day. It was things like Orange Theory, and from a very competitive perspective too, like
Mhm.
push, 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 and not listen to my body when it was tired. So then after the accident, when I couldn't do that, and what I was so angry about is when I'd go to the physiotherapist and they would say, okay, you have to work on, correct me if I'm wrong here, Kim, is it called intrinsic muscles, like the tiny little muscles that are,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep,
So
like the stabilizers.
everything that I had to do was around that. And I'm sure if anyone listening to this has been through an experience like this, those are the most boring exercises and you don't feel anything after, right? And
Yep.
so, but consistency with them is so important. So when my physiotherapist is like, Ardelle, you're not gonna be able to do those things you used to do if you don't focus on this. And then when I started working with a kinesiologist, she said something to me that just made sense where I used to try to do like really hard workouts, maybe a couple times a week, 3 times a week or so. And she's like, what if you just started doing 10 to 15 minutes every single day?
Mm.
And I was like, I don't know. I'm not going to really feel anything. What's the point? If I'm not going to feel tired after, no. Like I'm sure you have heard this, right? And yeah, so
1,000 times.
yeah. So then that was it. I was like, okay, I have to do this. And then simultaneously working with my therapist who helped me identify that I self-compassion just did not exist in my vocabulary. I was so hard on myself. Um I don't want to say I was in the victim mindset, but part of me was, and I don't resent me now. I don't resent myself for that. I think there was a learning experience, and I love that part of me because it kept me safe for so many
Mhm,
years, right?
mhm.
Where when I look back at it now, it's like I was really stuck because I wanted the results, but I wasn't willing to change what I was doing.
Uh-huh.
And I guess that's the definition of insanity, isn't it? Like, right?
Yep,
And
doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
yeah,
Yep.
so it was honestly, it was like, okay, well, I'm just going to focus then on these little like physio and kinesiology exercises, and then at the same time really working on my relationship with my body and healing that.
Yeah. And I'm sure alongside that, there was a lot of mindset work to be doing. Maybe you weren't conscious of that at the time, but I bet you are now, knowing what you know about self coaching and all of that. What do you think was the predominant thought in your past driving the perfectionist behavior? And what did you have to shift it to get to self compassion?
The perfectionism, as I was sharing before, really stemmed from the fact that I felt unsafe in my life, like from childhood experiences. And so I would use, I would exert an extreme amount of control in my life because I was so afraid of something happening that I wouldn't be able to respond to. And so I thought that I could avoid mistakes, I could avoid um, difficulty in my life if I just over controlled every
Mm,
situation.
mhm,
And it also was because I didn't fully love myself for who I was. And so I would put this facade out there that everything is fine through that perfectionism, which really what it was doing is destroying me internally.
mm,
Like I was a mess. I was a mess behind closed doors. And to like remind everyone that during all of this, I was still coaching other people through their health.
mm,
And so I also, because I was in the space of health coaching, I put myself on a really high pedestal.
mm,
I had to look a certain way in order to earn respect from my clients, is what I thought
mm,
was acceptable. And I also thought that your weight was a reflection of your health and the things you did or didn't engage in.
mhm,
And so what I was at a point in my life where I couldn't do the exercise that I used to, and my body started to change. I was so embarrassed and I felt so much shame around that. It affected the way that I coached.
mhm.
And I'm not sure if I'm fully answering your question here, but that I think is where perfectionism really led my like the steering of my entire life was because I was so afraid of people seeing what was really happening inside.
Mhm. So what did it mean to embrace self-compassion, and what do you think of yourself now?
I'm very resilient and I'm very aware. I've always been a really aware person, but it wasn't until I came to um, acceptance that I was
Mhm,
able to then take different action. And this is what I really teach my clients right now: is that awareness leads to acceptance, which leads to action. And the acceptance piece for me, every step of this needed to be met with compassion. So self compassion for me at that time was less loosening the grip
mm,
and allowing things to flow. And it wasn't until I went through the process of self coaching that I understood exactly how to actually have that happen,
mhm,
which is changing your thoughts and changing your belief system. And so for me, when I got to the point of acceptance, it was looking at my situation as something that I didn't need to resent and as something that it didn't indicate if whether I was a good coach or a bad coach or if my life was good or bad. It was I don't want to say it is what it is, but it was an opportunity for me to really meet who I was as an individual again. And I
Mm.
kind of say that the universe like needed me to break myself literally so that I could heal myself figuratively as well.
Wow. That's
Mhm.
that's huge. Yeah, so
Yeah.
everything changed in terms of how you thought about your body, how you engaged with movement, how you engaged with food. You had no choice but for it to change. How did your opinion about health change as you were going through all of this?
Oh gosh, I'm so glad you asked this question because it totally changed my perspective. I think within the wellness industry, there's this narrative that everybody is responsible for their health
Mhm.
and that seeking and chasing health should be the number one priority of everyone's life. And I used to subscribe to this message that if you don't have health, what do you have?
Mhm.
And how toxic is that and triggering to so many people who have situations happen to them that really weren't in their control? And that always, I mean, really, when you break that down, how could that not make a person feel less than?
Mhm.
And once you feel less than, you engage in your health in a very different way.
Mhm.
In fact, most people have a hard time engaging with it at all.
Mhm.
And so my experience made me have so much more compassion, not just for myself, but all of the people that struggle with chronic pain and illnesses and diseases that doesn't that we don't have to feel shame around a diagnosis
Mhm.
and our situation, but we have to change the narrative of what health is for an individual. And I can't define it for another person. It has to be defined by the individual.
Mhm. Yeah, I would agree that it's a spectrum, right? It's a different thing for different people. And it doesn't just mean the absence of disease. Like you still live with the effects of this accident, right? You
Mhm.
have chronic pain, but it is possible, and you're doing it to experience health while dealing with a chronic condition, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does
Yeah.
that look like now? How do you approach health when you're dealing with chronic pain?
Well, I know that I love exercising the practice of like the and practice.
Mm.
So I can feel pain one day and feel good mentally
Mm.
and still engage with health promoting activities. And I can also take a day of rest if I need it.
Mm.
I can allow that to, because a lot of the times when I experience higher levels of pain now, I used to in the past always assume that that was because physically I was doing something that caused it, where now I understand a lot of the times it's because there's a lot of attunement disruptors. There's a lot of higher stress in my life. I'm allowing the busyness of life to get in the way of my self care. And so, if I'm feeling more chronic pain, that's a reminder now of, hey, I need to slow down. I need to put more white space on my calendar. I need to, sleep more and attend to my self care. Not always am I able to do that. And I know that not everyone can do that. Some people have to just keep pushing through it, but we can allow it to be a message from our body in saying, like, okay, we may not be able to do everything on our self care list, right? But what's one thing we can do to help us feel just a little bit better?
Yeah. I really love that your symptoms almost are your radar, that it's an opportunity to care for yourself and just show up for yourself, right? As opposed to your symptoms being a red flag or an indication that something's wrong with you and you need to fix yourself or you did something wrong with your diet or your exercise or this or that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not something I talk about this quite a bit with some of my clients who have a diagnosis where they quickly think that they used to be in the mindset where if they were experiencing, like, let's say digestive upset or something like that, they would feel guilt or shame because it's like, oh, I did something wrong, I did something bad.
Mhm.
And it's like we were just talking about, it's an opportunity for us to look within and allow that to be one of the ways your body communicates with you. We just have to be And it takes a lot of practice, but we have to pause to listen to our body.
Mhm. Mhm. I agree. Our body is so wise and has so many things to share with us, but we are very quick to want to control and fix and just eh, not feel anything negative in our body, right? Like you say,
Totally.
there's so much stigma around illness and disease that as soon as there's something that comes up, like there's shame felt around that we've got to get rid of that real quick. I love
Yeah.
that you're changing the narrative around how we engage with health.
Yeah. And it's done wonders for me as a practitioner too, because I've taken myself off of a pedestal and I really am able to relate to my clients. And I no longer feel this pressure that I have to be free of disease. I have to be free of any ailments in
Mhm.
order to help others experience health. Because really, as I said before, I've defined health for me and I help my clients tune out the noise of the external resources trying to tell us what health is and allow them come back to home, come back to their body to determine what health really is for them.
Mhm. So talk to me, share a client win with me if you have one. Like what have you noticed change in your clients from before when you were doing the weight loss model approach to how you're operating now?
So one of my favorite stories is to share a client that has literally been with me since my weight loss days. So she's been working with me we have such a beautiful relationship. And so when I was working, that's where we met, was at the weight loss center. And then when I started my own practice for holistic nutrition, she came on as a client. And then when I totally shifted gears and I'm now in the space of intuitive eating, she's become a client for that as well. And so seeing her transition, and she shared with me recently a massive win where she realized that the first step in her journey was setting boundaries around the people that were so close to her that kept trying to project what they thought was healthy onto her.
Mm,
And she had a huge win the other day where she was chatting with her sister and her mom, and they were trying to get everybody in the family to sign up for another like 30-day whatever wellness program, which required them to do like insane amount of like exercise and all of this stuff. And normally she would have felt like all the pressure to say yes. And she was like, nope, not doing it. I'm doing something so different. And then that opened the door to also set boundaries around they are no longer allowed to tell her what to eat, or because she has been fat her whole life and always felt like something, it was all on her, it was something she was doing.
mm,
And from the work that we've been doing together, she's now able to come to a place of acceptance with her body.
mm,
And, like she messaged me the other day, she's like, I put on an outfit and I love this outfit, but I went and changed because it's an outfit that a person of my size would be considered not allowed to wear. And then she said, screw it. Just before she was heading out of the house, she went and put that outfit back on. And I was like, I was in tears. I get very
mm,
emotional with my clients. I feel it immensely of these wins because it's seeing someone be able to take back that joy that was taken from them and live the life that they were always meant to live.
Well, I feel emotional hearing that story. My whole body got covered in goosebumps because that's what it's all about, right? Is when we can just find that confidence within us to be who we are, define health on our terms, take up the space that we live in and chase health without attaching it to weight loss and just live our damn lives. Like
Yeah.
kudos to
Yeah.
her and kudos to you for doing the work with her.
Yeah, it's so liberating to see how a person, when they stop taking so much focus on their list of shoulds, they
Mm,
should eat this, they should exercise, like, all of these things, and they start to have so much space to do the things that they missed out on for years. Um, yeah, so it's hard not to feel an immense amount of joy just simply looking at the transformation of my clients.
mhm, mhm. It's very fulfilling. Um, which I'm sure you can relate. I feel the same way about like how my practice has changed from weight loss. It was always very frustrating before and discouraging. Like my people were not getting the results that they wanted to get, and they were always down on themselves. And now, when you see the joy come out of them, even without a change in their physical body, like because that doesn't even matter. Oh, that's the good stuff right there.
So true. Yeah, when you said that in the past it was always hard as a coach, I'm sure it was really hard to be a client because you know what, you'd show up for the appointments and be like, no judgment here, but at the
Mhm.
same time, they signed up for physical change.
Yeah.
And so then you always felt this pressure that, you know, you have to be giving them all of these answers. And if that didn't work, it's like, okay, now try this and then try this. And
Mm.
I mean, how confusing would that be at the end of working with another practitioner? It's like all of these things are confusing. And yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, it's
mhm,
very confusing and very frustrating on both ends because, they feel like they're a failure. I feel like I'm a failure because I didn't get them the results they wanted. Like nobody feels good from this interaction,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this has been a really great conversation. I want to express my gratitude for you being so open and honest about your experience and everything that you've gone through and how that's transformed your life and your practice. I do have one final question before we head out today, which is something that I ask all my guests who come on the show. What does joyful movement mean to you? So now that you've experienced this whole big change, how would you define joyful movement?
Joyful movement for me has become a beautiful, intricate relationship of where my body, my physical body, meets my emotional and my mental and my spiritual body in being able to, I don't know if I'm describing it well, Kim, but
Mm.
you know, when you feel like pent up energy and you're able to just allow your body to move the way that it wants to move and thoroughly enjoying that movement and not feeling like I have to have those physical results at the end of it. And it's like I said, it's like when all of those bodies come to meet through a beautiful movement. And
Mhm.
I don't know if I define that whatsoever, like in a well way, but joyful movement has just been another way to communicate with my body. And it just feels so good to do it.
Yeah, that's what I was hearing when you were describing that is that it's a means of expressing yourself, like all parts of you and connecting to the deeper parts of you than just the physical.
Yeah.
Amazing, Ardelle. Thank you so much. It's been such a joy having you on the show today. Thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else that's on your heart before we wrap up?
I think I just want to, like, if I can say something to the people that are potentially experiencing chronic pain or a physical ailment of some sort, that as easy it is for someone to just tell you, like, hey, just exercise self-compassion. I think I know that that sounds easier said than done, but honestly, when I worked on the mindset piece, that's when I really started to feel the physical improvements.
Mm.
And and also just to reiterate the fact that your chronic pain doesn't need to define you and you're still a very healthy, vibrant person. So yeah, that would be my message for that community.
It's a really powerful message. Can you share with our listeners how they might connect with you and stay in touch?
Yeah. Okay. So you can pretty much find me on all forms of social media like Instagram, Facebook at Aromas and Avocados. That's also where my website, aromasandavocados.com. And so those would probably be the best places to find me right now. I'm on Instagram pretty actively. So definitely, if you want to reach out, say hi. I love engaging with new people on social media. So, and share their wins with me. Yeah, let me celebrate in the joy.
Great. Well, thank you once again for spending time with me today. And I really appreciate you sharing your story and being so open and vulnerable.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, Kim.
Well, that's it for today, friends. That interview has given us a lot to think about. I really love how Ardelle said that her perfectionism was a coping tactic she employed to manage her anxiety. and also how she now views her chronic pain as a gift and a signal from her body to return to self-compassion. I encourage you to keep in touch with Ardelle. Her social media and website are linked in the show notes, and she has a free resource you can go grab on her website. It's a quiz where you can find out what kind of eater you are with tips on how to begin intuitive eating. From both Ardelle and myself, thank you so much for being here today. If you loved this episode, please share it or leave us a 5-star rating or review on iTunes. And as always, I love to hear from my listeners, so you can connect with me through the DMs on Facebook or Instagram, and you can learn how to work with me on my website, which is www.radiantvitality.ca. I'll see you back here next Monday for more non-diet motivation, and until then, here's to your radiant vitality. Thanks for tuning into the Power in Motion podcast today. If you love what you're learning here, then I invite you to take the next step of embodying these concepts into your own life so that you can live your healthiest, happiest life and never again feel held back by your body. Coaching is the fastest, most efficient pathway to taking what you know in your head to actually applying it and seeing results. Whether you're looking to make changes around movement, food, body image, or all three, I'm here to help you nurture a kind, respectful, and trusting relationship with your body so you can feel your very best. Click the link in the show notes to book a free consultation, and together we'll uncover what's getting in the way of you having the results you want. You'll leave this call knowing exactly what you need to work on, and together we'll explore whether one of my coaching offers is a good fit for you. I can't wait to meet you.